Today is such an incredible day. The gift of God's mercy is just so overwhelming. I couldn't even say the opening prayer, to be honest with you. It just struck me. Because I don't deserve that. We don't deserve it. We don't. We're miserable human beings. Although we're His creation, He loves us despite our sinfulness, despite our miserable state. He gives it out like candy. You know, mercy is ultimately love. Love is what is at the root of mercy. And mercy manifests itself in different ways. When it comes to our sinfulness, it manifests itself as forgiveness, right? When mercy encounters pain in our lives, it manifests as compassion, right? But there is mercy and then there is justice. But I was having a conversation with a parishioner last night about mercy and justice. And we can't think of it like a court of law because we'll go way off the tracks that way. That's not His justice. You ready for this? The kicker on this one. His justice is that He gives us free will. Because if He controls us and doesn't give us free will, then it's not love. Right? Remember, love is the root of everything. Okay? So if He gives us free will, that's His mercy, number one. That's His justice at the same time, because that's how God operates. But we determine the justice for ourselves through our free will. So in other words, if we reject His love and forgiveness, there's nothing more He can do. Because if He's giving you the freedom and we choose to reject His love and His forgiveness, we basically condemn ourselves. Isn't that twisted? I mean, that's like love on steroids, right? It's love on steroids. Because we don't think like that. You did that to me, I am going to nail you, right? That's where we want to go. That's where our humanity wants to take us. But that's not Christian love. When St. John Paul II, after he was almost assassinated, he went to the person who tried to kill him and forgave him in the prison. That's love encountering hurt, right? So all of us today, so that we respond correctly to God's love, must realize there's nothing we can do that can outdo His love and forgiveness for us. It was so interesting. I was listening to Peter Kreeft. You may have heard of him, right? And he was saying, someone may say, oh, my sin is so bad, he can never forget that. And then I quote him, he goes, you idiot. We are idiots if we think that our sin is bigger than that. Bigger than His mercy, than what He did on that cross. That's self-righteousness. We need to get rid of that. Okay? Now, that's not carte blanche to go sin. I think you understand what I'm saying, right? But the same way that He gives that kind of mercy and forgiveness to us, what do? We must forgive others. Get over our pride. Can't dangle something over somebody or be vengeful. Lack of forgiveness is what? Drinking the poison and hoping that the other person drops dead. Doesn't work that way. So when we fail to forgive the way Christ and God, the Holy Father, the Trinity, forgives us, and we turn around and fail to forgive others, It's a rejection of his love. It's a rejection of his truth, right? Forgive others as I have forgiven you. Love others as I have loved you. How has he loved us? He's loved us by giving us this boundless, abundant, overflowing mercy. That's why today is so special. Just to focus on his mercy. And as we're going to have a baptism today, the mercy of God is going to come upon Amelia Lou, right? Not because she's a bad person, but because our human nature was wounded by original sin, and that is now going to be washed away. That's why she's wearing white, right? She's going to be super duper clean in the eyes of God. And she'll be now brought into proper relationship, justice. When we talk about justice in Christian terms, in right relationship, giving to one what is due to that person. That's what we're doing, right? And we got to think of that in the positive when I say what's due to that person. That's why God's justice is incomprehensible, because he's giving us what we don't deserve. But like I said, he expects us to do the same to others. You remember the story in Matthew where the king forgave this guy this humongous debt that he had? And he was so grateful because they was going to throw his family in jail or sell them into slavery. And he walks out and he encounters a guy who owes him money. And he's just pounding that guy, right? And it gets back to the king. Uh-oh. And the king lets him have it for not doing to that person what he extended to him. All right? So what we celebrate today is that love, that mercy, that justice, that truth that is Jesus Christ. And the God who in the ultimate act of mercy, the Paschal mystery, his passion, death, resurrection, and ascension, his suffering on Calvary, which we will represent, not redo, represent his passion. He's not being crucified again. It's being brought out of time because he's outside of time and made present again for us. And as he offered himself to the Father at that first Calvary, he intercedes for us again. Why? We are still sinning. And we, in turn, are to offer our lives alongside Jesus to the Father. Even though they may not be the most beautiful lives, it is what it is, right? Because his love is so open to receive our gift in response to his gift, because his mercy and love is all gift. That's a key word, gift. Because sometimes we receive gifts that we don't deserve, which really makes it gift, gift, gift. But we have to ask for the gift. Remember that. You have to ask for the gift because of the free will part, right? Can't just shove it on you. We're going to ask for the gift. That's what confession's for. We go to ask forgiveness. And he will give it to us. Because that's how God loves. So I think today, brothers and sisters, let's really weigh that infinite, incomprehensible love. It doesn't even fit into a human framework at all. That's why he's God. Try to understand that kind of love. Right? And then in a spirit of thanksgiving and humility and appreciation, we come forward to receive the Eucharist, which is his body, blood, soul, divinity. Literally, as I said, it's the Paschal mystery. We're taking that in to be transformed more into Christ. And as we give ourselves away, as Christ gave himself away for us, we become more like him. We become divinized. We become lovers.